The first part of my work experience was going to be taken out in New York. My idea was to create a collaboration of images, film, photography, sound recordings and writing, and that basically showed lights and colour in Times Square and Central Park in the springtime. I was working with Diana Popovici on this, and then 2 other people were brought into the group, but when it come to actually going to do the project, too many changes had been made by these members. They didn't know what they were doing, they weren't contributing well, and I had taken up all the workload and there was just too much to do. The tutors weren't happy, so I decided that I was going to continue doing my original project of Central Park and Times Square. Unfortunately, the trip was cancelled due to unfortunate circumstances that couldn't be helped, so the New York project didn't go ahead in the end. I couldn't do it elsewhere. Well, I did consider doing this project elsewhere, like Birmingham or London, but it was mainly based on New York, so it wouldn't have translated that well and I wouldn't have had the same passion or enthusiasm for the project. I've definitely learnt to cope in tough situations and upsetting situations, as I did have my heart set on going to New York. I've also learnt that I am good at teamwork, but I need to have a reliable team behind me. When the people I'm working with aren't reliable, aren't contributing, it's not much of a team. Although I tried my best with them, it just didn't work out. The meetings didn't really come up with anything. They didn't find any of their own research towards the projects. They didn't help me out whatsoever. So basically, I was on my own. Effectively, I wasn't working as a team. Maybe I could have done something to make this team work better, but some of the group applied to it quite late and they didn't know what they were doing, and I suppose this couldn't be helped. I'll know for next time to sort my team out in advance, give everyone precise things to do, and then hopefully the project should run a lot smoother and I'll be a bit more of a team player.
Mr. Davis, the owner, required professional and descriptive photos for one of his jobs. The idea of these photographs being to attract attention from richer clients and companies.
But Mr. Davis of Davis Blinds kindly offered more work to me.
I helped fit a couple of these blinds so I could photograph the process. I had to think of what a buyer would like to see when contemplating buying a blind. So I experimented with the flash, natural light, the light bulb in the room, and different light settings on the camera.
Although I tried my best with the lighting situation on the day, some images still seemed of poorer quality as a result. The images would still be useful to add to the portfolio of quality images. I tried to limit the amount of editing I did on each photo to keep them as natural looking as possible. I had a meeting with Mr. Davis to discuss the images he liked and wanted to use. He discussed more work in the future. He hasn't got any work at the moment to give me, as I started not knowing quite how I was going to make the decision. I thought about the company and the company's future.
I learnt that researching rivals can be very useful as you know what you can do to improve and come across as the better choice. It's extremely important to know your subject matter well. It also makes it a little bit more personal so the viewer can see you put yourself into it. And I've definitely learnt to be patient on a shoot, as quite often not a lot is happening and it can't be avoided either. At the time of the shoot, I thought I'd found quicker ways to take images. Although this is actually true, during the upload there were quite a few dud shots. On my next shoot, whatever that may be, I'm definitely going to make sure I only take an appropriate amount of photos and of what I specifically need. It may have been a wiser idea to delete as I went along on the photo shoot. I obviously need even more experience and practice before I can do what I thought I was doing, i.e. producing high quality images at a quick and logical level. Sometimes having a look at the result and having a good think of how you can correct the problem before you actually come to edit helps. I think the lesson I've learnt today is that things happen and sometimes there's nothing you can do. You just have to look at the positives from the situation and see that it wasn't a complete waste of time. I enjoyed working for somebody outside of the university and outside of my comfort zone. I got to be independent and make my own choices without being guided or dictated. Working by myself was actually a pleasant experience, as I learnt that I don't need help all the time. I'm a big girl now, and even though it can be scary, it can also be liberating. I mean, I've learnt something from what has happened, and it all adds to my worldly and professional experience.
What good is working in the media industry without having these bits of knowledge, when there are millions of others just like you who have learnt this? With the Davis Blinds project, I'm really pleased with the outcome. I've taken some very good photographs which he is also pleased with, and they're going to be used and shown to other people. On a whole, I think my teamwork skills have been challenged, and I don't know whether I quite met this challenge that I set myself, to be honest. The New York project was supposed to be group work in the end, although it started off just by myself. This didn't actually pan out so well, and I carried out the Davis Blinds project by myself, just working alongside Mr. Davies. So teamwork, I haven't really been able to challenge this, but I do think I did work in as an effective team member. I picked up all the slack on the New York project. In the past I have had good teamwork, but this time round it didn't translate. This could just be a one-off, but I really will work on that skill in the future, as it is really important. I'm not going to be working alone, I can guarantee that. There will always be people I'm working alongside. I've made a few contacts during this process. None came out of the New York project, unfortunately, as I didn't actually go over there and get to meet anybody or network, and I didn't require the assistance of anyone whilst I was over there. Whilst doing the project for Mr. Davies, obviously I made contact with Mr. Davies. I also made contact with a Jez Maguire of AdWorlds Limited. He then led me on to contact with Stuart Udale of Gas Street Works. There was also Peter Rigg and Amanda Hallworth of Gas Street Works. I think all the skills and knowledge I had before this module have actually really come into play and helped me. My photography skills have really been tested, and I think I've managed to use them wisely and progress on them. I've learnt a lot during the Mr. Davies Blinds project. Independence and confidence has really been tested, because I've been out there on my own, doing my own thing really, and I've managed to produce some good work from it. This experience will help me in the future and in my career. I now know how to work independently. Also, companies will be able to see that I have worked for someone outside of university, which raises my employability. After completing this module, I'd definitely like to continue self-directed projects for my career. I do want to work for a bigger company, just because I feel that I can get more immediate work out there with this. But overall, I think this module has been a success, and it has improved on my weaker skills. Although in the future I do think I'm going to be doing a lot more self-directed projects, working with other people and other teams outside of the university, because it all helps and it all builds up your experience. I feel that it's really important to get as much experience as possible and network, basically. I mean, nobody's going to employ you if you haven't got any experience in the field, whether it is your own stuff or whether it's working for another company.